On today's video, I'm going to be taking this plain Jane HP NetServer E60 and turning it into the gaming PC you wish you had 25 years ago. Stay tuned. Thanks for sticking around, and if you like seeing videos of old computers being tinkered with well beyond their expiration date, please consider subscribing. This machine came to me with 320 meg RAM, just a single AGP card, nothing else in the PCI slots, and a 9 gig SCSI hard drive. It's pretty basic. There's no additional upgrades to this thing in its service, as far as I can tell. Maybe a little more RAM over the time. But I'm going to be taking all this hardware I have in front of me, a Sound Blaster Live, a gig of RAM from OWC, a 74 gig hard drive, SCSI as well, a FireWire card so that I can transfer files directly off this hard drive. Just makes it a little easier. I don't have to set up my server or anything like that. A gigabit network card also comes in handy when you're gaming, of course. You need all the packets. And additionally, an NVIDIA Quadro 4 750XGL. It'll give it quite a bit of boost. Now, not all of this came out in the 90s, of course. I believe this video card's from like 2005 or 2006. So this wouldn't have been possible in 1999 when this server would have been new. It's definitely stuff that you wish you had back then. Now let's get this thing open and I'll position it so you have a better angle of everything inside. Alright, once again, I have my coffee with me. Definitely required for this type of work. Sorry for the slurping noises. I'll try to edit that out of post. The first thing I'm going to do is take out the hard drive cage because that's getting completely replaced. All the screws in here, as far as I can tell, are T15 Torx bits. HP didn't want just anyone in here messing around with Phillips heads. And the screws on here are captive. So quick disconnect of the drive. It's a little filthy. That'll slide right out and the new one will go right in its place. Now that the drive is done, I'm just going to set that aside. Put the old drive on the mat over here. Next easiest thing would be the RAM. It's under all these cables here. So let's get my arm out of the way. Pop all four of them out and take my OWC RAM and put it right back in its place. Making sure that all the little levers are open. Until you hear that nice clicking sound. Now the hard part about doing this on camera is normally I would be all in the way here, just not thinking about camera angles, but I got a camera up here, I got this camera here, so gotta stay out of the way. Alright, all 4 sticks of RAM are in. Now I'm going to remove the antiquated video card. This is an ATI. It just says HP NetServer video adapter. It is an ATI card. It says Rage 2C AGP. So that's what's in there. Get that upgraded card in there. Let's throw the sound card in next. If I can help it, I'll leave that PCI slot empty right below the AGP card just to keep a little heat dissipation. Go ahead and put the FireWire card in there right below the sound card. Unless there's conflicts for some reason, it really doesn't matter what goes where. You just don't want anything overheating, of course. So you try to do what is best for cable management on the back and airflow inside the machine. And then the network card, let's put that on the next one down. Now, another card I would recommend, which I just don't happen to have on hand at the moment, but a good USB 2.0 card would be good for this. Just because if you're transferring anything over a thumb drive on USB 1, it's painfully slow. I'm going to go ahead and get all these screwed in tight. Now, one thing I like about this is I'm going to show this camera here if it can see it. These screws are tapered, so the first millimeter or two doesn't have any threads, so that way you don't accidentally strip your screws when you're trying to put this thing back together. That comes in very handy when you're messing with old computers. One more screw and we are done. Okay, let's put the hard drive cage back in. All right, I had to do this off camera because I had to get it in a weird angle. It's just a little lip where this cage drops into. Once I did that, it slid right in. Okay, a little bit of cable management because, of course, everything goes everywhere. That was originally stashed up where the tape drive would have gone if it had one. And that closes it up right there. So I'm going to take the camera, take a little different angle of it, and we'll show that in the video quick. Alright, right on the inside here you see all the cards I just added. Hard drive cage is safely secured. 3 screws, 1, 2, 3. And our dual CPUs are sitting right in there, right next to all that RAM. Alright, so I'm going to raise this right up. And you can see it from that angle. Another thing I did off camera before I was doing any of this, testing this machine, I did replace the CMOS battery because it was very dead. Luckily it's just a coin cell 2032, so no worries about leakage or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and with some movie magic get Windows 2000 installed on here with all the drivers updated. I'm not going to bore you with those details, and I'll be right back. And I'm back after a very lengthy install of Windows 2000. Took about 4 hours to get the drive formatted, everything installed, all the driver updates. I did use Legacy Update to download all the latest drivers and updates on Windows Update. It was very useful. Some of the other drivers I actually went and got from the manufacturer website. They're still available, believe it or not. And some I had to get from archive.org, like the Sound Blaster Live drivers. They didn't have support for Windows 2000 on the ones that were available today to download off their website. So I did find a disk on the archive.org, or the archive. I did find a disk on archive.org and got everything installed and working properly. So let's go ahead and install Quake 3, and we will get a good FPS counter on this to find out if it can max out. Now the FPS max on Quake 3 was either 85 or 90 frames per second. I can do a time demo and that'll actually just max it all out completely, and we'll see what it spits out. Okay, so the install is done. It's asking me to reboot the computer. Now, just so you know, to reboot this thing with a gig of RAM, I can go make a sandwich, come back, finish the sandwich, and then it'll be booted up. It takes that long to check RAM. If you skip the RAM check, it takes about half as long, but it just clears the RAM a little quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot this, and I'll be right back. Alright, I got everything installed, CD key entered, everything ready to go. Let's go ahead and do time demo and see what the FPS comes out to. Okay, so the time demo completed. It had an average of 62.4 frames per second, Not terrible. Let's see if I can max out the settings now. Okay, now I got it 1024 by 768. Not quite max, but it's what works with this monitor. So back to demo 1, hit play. Okay, with the textures maxed out at 1024 by 768, I have a average of 62.5 frames per second. That's still really good for a computer from the 90s. I would have killed for that back then. I think I was probably getting about 30 FPS with my system at the time, if that. So this is not bad, in my opinion. So looking over here, it's spiking at about 100 and some frames per second. It dips down into the 40s when it's a lot of characters on the map. But overall, very playable. 59.1 FPS on that particular demo. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. So let's see what actual gameplay looks like, and let's see how much I suck at this game, because I haven't really played it competitively in well over 20 years. I suck. It's been a long time since I've played that. Okay, suffice it to say, I suck at this game. It's been a long time since I've actually played. But it is fun. It brought back a lot of memories. Took me a minute to even remember what to do, but I got it. Point and click, shoot. A lot of fun. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the dual processor and just see if it makes a difference. Probably will. We'll see. I wasn't able to select only one CPU in the BIOS, but I did remember I could change the boot.ini file to only reflect one CPU when Windows booted up. So as far as Windows 2000 knows, there's only one CPU available now. So let's see how that changes the playthrough with Quake 3. So as far as I can tell, it looks the same, even though it's dual CPU, and the game does support dual CPU. The only thing I noticed is that booting the game took a slightly bit longer, but not by much. And if you open up Task Manager here, it does only show one CPU. So let me go ahead and fix that back to dual CPU, and we'll see what that looks like again. Okay, and just to verify, I re-enabled the dual CPU, and it is showing two CPUs now. So that trick did work. So as far as I could tell, based on frames per second, there wasn't a huge difference in the gameplay. Now, as far as the amount of time it took to load, slightly faster with two processors. Now, I don't know if there's a setting in Quake that I have to change to make it use two CPUs, because maybe that'll be a little bit better. Okay, a quick Google told me that I did not have SMP enabled from the get-go. So all of these benchmarks have been on one CPU alone. So I'm going to go ahead and restart this, and we'll see what the actual benchmarks are now with SMP enabled. So let's do the demo now with SMP enabled, and hopefully we see a change. Oh yeah, that is definitely faster. So before I was getting about 62, 63 frames a second on the demo. With SMP enabled, I'm getting almost 78 frames a second. That is a big bump compared to what it was prior. Now, unless you edit the config file, you're going to be maxed out at 85 frames per second. So with two 550 megahertz Pentium 3s in here, this thing's almost maxing out. Now, unfortunately, the max I can get for this thing is 600 megahertz, and it's not worth buying two CPUs just to bump it by 50 megahertz. But overall, this thing is actually making the dual CPU thing worth it, in my opinion, for this game specifically. Now, Unreal Tournament, Half-Life, other games like that that don't support dual CPUs, you'll get about the same performance. Just like I was seeing in the beginning here, where I thought there's no difference because I didn't read all the directions and enable SMP. Now, if you're just installing this out of the box, you don't even know to do that. You would think this would detect two CPUs and just enable it automatically, but it doesn't. So back then, games were a little more hands-on. You had to know what you're doing. But yeah, quick Google, I figured out the right command I had to type in here, and now it's working. This is much more playable now. I'm very happy with this. I think all I would need to do now is replace the fans with something a bit quieter. I'm not feeling any heat coming out of the back of this thing. Now, I'm sure if I start playing this thing for a few hours, it might heat the room a bit. But I don't think I need this much airflow. This thing is not really crunching the CPUs as much as it would if it were, running a server nonstop. Now, like I said, I'm very happy with this. I think it is worth having two CPUs to get another 15 frames per second. Now, you might not, but when you're already kind of bottlenecked here at having a 550, when most Pentium 3 boards can take up to 800, 850 on the slot 1 type CPUs, this is much better in my opinion because you got a gig of RAM, you got two CPUs here, even though it's two 550s, but if they could both work together in certain games like this, now I would have been very happy to have something like this in 1999, 2000. Everything in this box, aside from the GPU that's from about 2002, is from the late 90s. So if I had this in 1999, I would have been extremely happy. Back then I had Gateway Pentium 3, probably running about 800 megahertz if I recall. basic 32 meg video card, which I thought was awesome at the time. This has 128 meg video card. It's just so much better. It's something I wish I would have had in the late 90s, and I would have been over the moon with something like this. Now, if you're looking for a setup that you can max out something like this, this is definitely something you want to look for. It is very upgradable. It's got plenty of PCI slots in here. Just looking at the back, I've got the network card. I've got a FireWire USB card. I didn't have it when I originally did the install the other day, but the card came in the mail, so I slapped it in there. It's USB 2, so it makes it a lot easier when I'm transferring files back and forth. It's got Sound Blaster Live, and obviously the AGP video card. Now, as far as onboard stuff, it's got the PS2 mouse and keyboard. I do have an optical PS2 mouse, just for the better DPI. I'm not sure, how much better, but at least it's not a ball that I have to clean. This is the setup I wish I had when I was younger. So looking back, being nostalgic for these things, this is the grown-up me having having a late 90s video game tower, and I'm very happy. The only thing I'm going to upgrade on this after this is I'm going to slap a SATA PCI card in here and get some SSDs in here. Other than that, this thing is good to go. Quieter fans, that's about it. So I am very happy with the results here. I hope you like this video. I hope you guys go out and do this yourself. If you can find these, they're out there. Get yourself a kick-ass 90s gaming PC, because this one is definitely it. So like, subscribe, leave comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see me do next. I'm not getting rid of this tower. I'm definitely keeping this thing, so I can throw a different hard drive in here, different OSs, and see what else I can do. Stay tuned for more. Thank you. Bye.